Welcome to Characterization of Photography. I'm Bob Silva. As a photographer over the years, I have accumulated a very large collection of pictures. What you are about to see are some beautiful scenes from around the world. I plan to emphasize some of the finer elements within my photos that immediately capture your attention at first glance. So let's begin our tour of some beautiful photography. My first scene will be of the Saguaro Cactus. Simplicity, but yet attractive. Some elements that make it attractive are the configuration of the saguaro. Arms that grow vertically upward and can take from 75 to 100 years before they appear. Size and the color. The size goes to 40 to 60 feet in height. The next scene we're going to be taking a look at is a rusty old car in Death Valley. This is a complex scene, but intriguing and wonderful. There are many elements that make this scene what it is, along with finding some hidden surprises. Rusty car, orientation 30-degree angle, desert surrounding, the colors, the hue in the background, the mountains. And from here then we're going to look into the Antelope. Here's a scene that was taken just south of Cimarron. This Antelope decided he was going to go and walk into the sunflower field. I just couldn't resist taking this photo, and he came out beautiful. From here, we're going to move on west, and we're going into Bryce Canyon. For those that have ever been to Bryce, know how beautiful it is. They have many hoodoos within there. Hoodoos are earth formations that sort of stand vertical. Gorgeous, gorgeous area. An area that must be visited for the cameraman. We're going to continue going west and onto Highway 1 along Big Sur. Those that have ever driven Big Sur along from north of Santa Barbara and heads all the way to Carmel know the beautiful scenery along the ocean. This scene here has some beautiful red poppies that are in the very front of the scene. Next, for those that like to hike, this is a hike that I took a number of years ago down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon, 8 miles down. And as a person gets down to the bottom, then there's a bridge, and the bridge just seems to fade right into this wall of rocks. It's another one of those amazing areas to see. And once you're down at the bottom and then you come back up, now you want to take some more photos of the Grand Canyon, and you cannot, it's hard to take any type of bad photos of the Grand Canyon. But still, morning and evening are still the best. We're going to now step into one area that is God's country here. This is Monument Valley. It is another area. This is in Arizona, northern Arizona, and it is a beautiful area with many red buttes, as you can see here, and goes on for miles. Another place to visit. Closer to home now, let's visit our gold mine, mining pits. This are in Victor. This is right around Cripple Creek. This is one huge pit, and for those that have never had a chance to go down to it, it is a real experience. Many elements can be seen here. Those are the steps. Here was a photo I couldn't resist but taking. It stands out. There's a lady with her scarf, and the red scarf, and the way she's holding the chicken definitely represents a good frontier lady during the 1800s. A beautiful, beautiful scene. Now in Bent's Fort, this is another image of a gentleman, could be representing the traders or the trappers or traders of the era of the 1800s, and his white leather coat and jacket just stands out with a red vest on there. We are now going to head a little northwest of Durango into an area known as Canyon de Chelly. This is a national park. It is in Navajo country, but Canyon de Chelly has two major canyons, and it's another one of those areas that a person just can't miss. As we're in Navajo country in Arizona, and we continue west across the state, we're going to go into an area for a Navajo Nation, and this area you can see an alcove. Within the alcove you can see the ancient ruins. These are ruins that date back to the Anasazi. You ever want to be a painter? Water painter? This next scene was taken on the west side of the Rockies, and the day was a snowy day up in the high mountains with the winds blowing, and when it came down to developing this scene, it came out looking like a watercolor paint. We are staying in the mountains in this area now. I'm showing you is in the area of Lake City. This is south of Gunnison, and up in those mountains a lot of mining went on in Colorado in the 1800s. This one I was able to find a couple of honeycomb, and this was a beautiful valley. Portraits, I'm not into shooting just strictly portraits, but I couldn't pass this one up. This is a lady, western country, western singer. She's from Utah. She was at a western show just south of Cimarron, New Mexico, and the photo just came out beautiful. Now we're going to head across the ocean, and we're heading over to where else? Spain. And what are we going to be seeing? We're going to be seeing some of Antoni, the great architect, Gaudi. Antoni Gaudi's great creations. He was a great architect. He has created, back in the 1800s, he created many beautiful scenes and designs. And this are a couple. One of them is this church that we're looking at right now. Sagrada Familia, I believe it's the name of it. Definitely want to spend some time there. Now we come back across the ocean. Where else are we going to stop? We're going to stop in Washington, D.C. Now, here is a case. If you're looking into going into photography, if you can take shots at night, you can take shots about anything. This was one of my first ones many, many years ago that told me I could be a photographer. Now we're heading down to Texas, and we're heading down to the Riverwalk in San Antonio. This is one of the missions down there. I believe this is San Jose, but there's 4 of them, along with the Alamo, and they're all along the Riverwalk. The architect is from this one's from the 1700s. Coming back into the San Luis, here we're looking at one of those wild coats that I had an opportunity to get some beautiful shots of, and he's just looking and staring at me. Beautiful, beautiful animals. We're going to head back into Utah, and we're going to go to Arches. Arches is an area that you can spend forever within the arches in the Canyonlands. Beautiful arches of all types, sorts, sizes, and the list goes on. From Arches you can head into the Canyonlands, and once you start heading south into the Canyonlands, you're going to run into Mesa Arch. This is what we are looking at right now, Mesa Arch. Just another one of those great formations that just attract hundreds of people each year that come down to take none but photos of it. Well, from the Canyonlands, from the mid portion of the Canyonlands of Utah, I'm heading all the way down to the southern part of Utah into an area known as Escalante. I was there last year, and I took a number of great photos, and this was one that truly represents and has a taste of the Southwest. While you're down there, you sure don't want to miss the Natural Bridges National Park. And this here was one of the natural bridges that I ran into. This was up on the Escalante River after I hiked up into the river. Within Escalante, there's another area known as Devil's Garden. Within that area, this is another great scene. And this, to me, I call this my sandstone whale. So this is another beautiful area. You can wander. It's BLM land. You can walk forever. Now, next to home, one evening I drifted down to the reservoir and walking up on top of the upper ridge, and all of a sudden I looked down in the water, and here's this beaver just swimming away. And I looked down. I had my camera and my telephoto, and I was able to capture some beautiful, beautiful photos of this beaver. Now, and for those that like to hike and go into the backcountry and see some beautiful areas, there's a place at Lake Powell, and it has some slot canyons. This ones that we're looking at are known as Antelope slot canyons. They are gorgeous. They're red, pink, sandstone, and you enter between 11 and 2, and the sun comes in through the fine crevice of the slot canyon, and this is what you see, and this is what you get. Definitely will have to go prepared with your wide-angle lenses, though. Well, returning back to San Luis and the wild horses, one evening I was coming up from Taos, New Mexico, and I noticed some of the wild horses had come into one of the ponds, so I stopped, and they left the ponds and were heading back into the scrub, and one of them decided to lay down and shake its legs. I always looking for motion in my fishing. This is back. This scene that we're looking at now is one of the ones I captured along Big Sur. This one draws your attention for one little thing to me, and that is one little bird on one little branch up on the very top. The rest of it is nice photo, but that little bird draws my attention. Well, for those that have ever been to Death Valley, this is one of the formations that you'll see in Death Valley, and there are so many beautiful areas in Death Valley, but definitely you want to go between October and April. This next scene represents some trappers, pioneers, on their horses up the Arkansas River. This is representing the 1800s. And I just found that this was sort of a very interesting photo to take. Well, everything that we've seen I've taken, except for this one scene that we're looking at. This is a gorgeous scene. I gave my daughter down in Austin last year and said, hey, go take me some photos for my book, children's book, and she came back with a number of them, and I picked this one out. My daughter Janelle did a beautiful job on that one. Well, we're going to return back to Canyon de Chelly. Like I said, Canyon de Chelly is just amazing. This is a photo of some of the ruins up in the alcoves and down at the bottom. And if you look closely, there is a lot of details and a lot of things to be learned from the way the ancient people lived. This next one is, I gave a tour at the Davison Ranch a number of years ago. This are some petroglyphs, rock art, and this were 3 people and their horses on a cliff that had been either picked or scribbled in there. Now this next one that we're looking at, this is John Carson. John Carson is a relative to Kit Carson. He works at Bent's Fort. And he's one of the live individuals in there that represents the daily working of the bent fork going back to the 1830s. Very interesting photo. This one here, again, we're returning back to the Davidson Ranch. This is truly representative. I love rock art. I'm always looking for detail and trying to figure out what people had on their minds when they did the art. And this one here, it doesn't take a lot to figure out that the buffalo was their bread and butter. Canyon de Chelly. This is an area of Canyon de Chelly. There's two major canyons in Canyon de Chelly. This one has a large rock tower, better known as Devil's Tower. And here we're looking out across, and you can see the peak of Devil's Tower, but you can see the beautiful canyon back in there. Well, we have a tendency to borrow and buy things from different countries. This was Lake Havasu. This is the London Bridge, and it was actually bought from Europe and brought over, put in the middle of the desert of Arizona. They created a lake pond. It's become Arizona's playground now. Now this area is late fall in the Colorados, and I was up above Trinidad, west of there on one of the highways, and I took this photo a couple of years ago. Just shows the beautiful, beautiful golds of the trees in fall. Here's a ranch down by the Comanche grasslands I was at a number of years ago, and this big guy was just sitting in this field, and I just had to take a photo of him, and he was posing for me. And after I had him developed, I understood why, because it just made for a beautiful scene. All throughout this country, a lot of mining. If people are up in Victor or Cripple Creek, you will see much of the old mining rigs, towers, elevators that were used back in the turn of the century, the 1800s. For this last one, I threw in another Saguaro cactus. This time, this one here has the ocotillo plant. The ocotillo is an interesting plant. It grows about 20 feet high, and in this case, it added to the saguaro. For my last scene, this is a scene you don't have to go very far for those who want to go into photography in line. This one I took out of my front step, and this is a case of blending. If you can learn how to blend your colors with your main element or subject, you can go on and do anything. And this is what this photo showed. I definitely thank you, and that is my presentation.